The first fundamental rule for all parents is to understand. When there are millions of different pearls, millions of different faces, millions of different stars, how can there be same children? So all illustrious parents, we start with this talk that parenting is really challenging. Your children are not your children. No, your children are not your children. They are nature's sons and daughters which come because of the nature's love for itself. They come through you, but not from you. So you may give them their care, your money, your wealth, assets, but not your thoughts. For thoughts, they get from the divine. But it's a very painful reality. So parenting is probably one of the toughest tasks. You could be a great CEO, you could be training 1 lakh professionals globally, but when it comes to Sana Gobind Gurnur, the journey starts by understanding who's the knife, who's the fork, who's the spoon. It's not easy. Because that means you are beginning by not teaching, but by understanding. So that becomes the first essence of parenting. And now, before I start my presentation, one more thing. Once you have understood if this is a stand-up comedian, this is a dancer, this is a chess player, what do you do after that? And the answer to that is given by the greatest American civil rights reformist, Martin Luther King, who spoke in 1963, and I quote, "If you can't be a pine at the peak, be a shrub in the valley. Be a bush if you cannot be a tree. If you cannot be a highway, be a trail. Be a tiny star if you can't be the sun, for it's not with size that battles of life are lost or won. But there's one thing you must ever believe, no matter what, be the best of whatever you aspire to be the best of whatever you aspire to be." So my respected parents, the second important parenting rule is, once you have understood that is your child going to be a stand-up comedian, is your child going to be a dancer, is your child going to be a chess player, then like Martin Luther King said, employing everything possible to make him or her the best of that particular field. And the best is important for 3 reasons. And the 3 reasons are automation, computers, and generally growing jingoistic nationalization globally. It is said by a famous Big 4 research that 7 out of 10 jobs would be gone. We may have teacherless schools, with due respect over here. Like I was a big part of my life at Tokyo in Japan. Japan was already famous for teacherless schools, doctorless hospitals, lawyerless courtrooms. Technology is advancing at such a rate that the convention is very hard to predict whether it will be there in 2050. I know this is a diverse group, let me assume your child on a weighted average is in class 6. So roughly about 11 years. Any parenting mission has to ensure that whether your child becomes a comedian, a dancer, or any other profession in the year 2050, about 30 years from now, when many of us, maybe including me, may not be on this planet Earth, he or she must be the best. Again, I must quote Martin Luther King. He said, and I quote, "If it comes to the calling of your child to become a sweeper, then make sure your child becomes the best sweeper ever. Make sure that he or she sweeps better than anyone dead, living, or yet unborn. Make sure that he sweeps streets like Michelangelo sculpted. Make sure that he sweeps streets like Shakespeare wrote plays, like Beethoven composed music." So understanding your child and then making sure he or she becomes the best. Just because like Gagan, you were all India CBSE topper in 1991, BC gold medalist in 95, Iron Ahmedabad ice call holder, doesn't mean that your child will also become CEO of Mitsubishi. So with those words, my respected parents, let's start our presentation. And up, serious stuff over ho gaya. So up, let's have some fun. So let me start by Amitabh Bachchan ji, Mr. Latwata. मेरे पास आओ मेरे दोस्तों एक किस्सा सुनाओ. हाँ भाई दोस्तों भी है ना. कौन सी कहानी सुनोगे? शेर की कहानी सुनोगे? ओके, लेट्स गो. व्हाट्स योर नेम स्वीटहार्ट? सोनाक्षी. तो सोनाक्षी जी की चाह पर हम शेर की कहानी से शुरू करते हैं. So I'm going to go bilingual. If there's somebody who has an issue with Hindi or Punjabi, please let me know. So I'm going to sort of merge between them. एक बार एक जंगल में दो शेर रहते थे. रोज सुबह उठते, तैयार होते, और ऑब्वियसली एक जंगल दो शेर, तो अनिवार्य है कि ऑपोजिट डायरेक्शन में जाते. In the evening, after a long day, when they would come back, one lion would come back happy, smiling, confident. Oh, I had a busy day. I had a wonderful day. I had a successful day. I was successful once again today. So the whole jungle used to say, wow, he used to like sing. So let's call him successful lion. On the other hand, the second lion used to come back tired. Oh, आज बहुत थक गया, आज बहुत कोशिश करी, बट आज भी अफसोस, असफलता हाथ लगी. I couldn't catch the break. So जंगल लिखा ये बेचारा काम के बहुत कमा रहा है, इनको चाहिए हमदर्द का टॉनिक छिड़कारा. But that being said, they said, okay, this poor chap is a struggling lion because he looks so famished, so gaunt, so enervated that there's no way to say anything else. और इसमें तो कोई सोचने की बात ही नहीं है. पूरे जंगल ने सोचा, successful lion will become stronger and become an unto the jungle king, and the poor, tired, struggling lion will die and perish. But my respected parents, do you know what happened? Exactly the opposite of happened, because the successful lion started growing weaker till he eventually perished. On the other hand, the struggling lion started growing stronger till he was anointed the jungle king. Everybody was shocked. और सबकी जुबान पे एक सवाल था कि भाई ये कैसे हो गया, स्ट्रगलिंग लाइन किंग कैसे बन गया और सक्सेसफुल लाइन मर कैसे गया. तो लाइक इज द केस, एक कमिटी बिठाई गई, एंड द कमिटी फाउंड द सक्सेसफुल लाइन वाज feeling a great perception of being successful because every day it was chasing tiny mice. चूहे पकड़ता था. Now the thing with catching mice is it makes you feel busy. आज मैं दफ्तर गया, मैंने ओवर टाइम चार्ट भरा, 2 जूनियर्स को डांट लगाई, 2 बॉस को रिपोर्ट दी, 2-3 वेंडर को फोन किया. आई एम वेरी हैप्पी. आई हैव बिकम गुड एट टेनिस. तो आज अगेन मैं क्लास 6A में गया, मैंने छवि को बीट कर दिया. आज मैं क्लास 6B में गया, मैंने मोनिका को बीट कर दिया. द प्रॉब्लम अबाउट कैचिंग माइस, माय रिस्पेक्टेड पेरेंट्स, इज इफ यू गेट यूज्ड टू इट, you get used to your success and you start feeling that, oh, I am so good. On the other hand, what was the struggling lion doing? The struggling lion was chasing the fleshiest form of deer called antelope. Big goal. आज अगर मैंने छवि को 6 में हराया है, कल मैं मोनिका को क्लास 6 में हराऊंगी, उसके बाद मैं मिडिल स्कूल में जाके I will compete with another girl, then I'll go to state level, then zonal level, district level, national level. The problem about chasing mice is that it gives you less calorie than is consumed in catching it. So if your child will get used to chasing the same goals again and again, at which he or she is very good, then the task of continuously trying to become better would actually get deprived. On the other hand, you as parents, if you will motivate, inspire your child, कि बेटा, today you have won a class, tomorrow your goal is to win in the entire batch, then zonal, then district, then national, then nobody can defeat your child ever. The mission for parents, number 1 is to make sure that your child becomes a struggling lion.